What's the secret sauce that makes MMOs so popular and long-lasting? MMOs offer players massive open worlds to explore in the company of thousands of other players. These players might cooperate with you, work against you, or do both at different parts of your journey. Best of all, these players can live just about anywhere in the world. The player base of most popular MMOs span multiple countries. You can hop into a World of Warcraft dungeon queue with players from Germany, Russia, Canada, and France without even realizing it. This is the second part of our top 10 MMO list. If you missed the first video, make sure you check that out first. Here are the remaining 5 titles that have maintained their popularity thanks to excellent gameplay, unique features, or frequent updates. RuneScape. RuneScape is a game that is near and dear to many. The reason it's kept thousands of players hooked for so long is its emphasis on complete and total player freedom. While it has a tile and click based movement system and it doesn't let you jump, you are free to do whatever you want within the limits of the game from the moment you enter the fictional world of Gielinor. There is no central story to follow, no linear leveling system, and you don't even pick a race or a class. Instead, you can choose to level up your choice of over 24 skills in the main game, RuneScape 3. More on that in a second. Each with their own unique progression methods and associated quests. By far though, RuneScape's most significant selling point is its questing system. Every quest you undertake is a real adventure with its own handcrafted multi-step story and unique roster of characters. It's impossible to describe the average quest in the game as there is no such thing. Some quests will only take you a few minutes to finish, but others can take upwards of 10 hours or multiple days to complete. In one, you might be herding stubborn plague-ridden sheep into a pen for incineration. In the next, you'll be helping an adorable cave goblin girl explore the surface world and act as an ambassador for her kind. Or you might take on the very gods themselves and help entirely new cities establish themselves. Like World of Warcraft, RuneScape comes in 2 flavors. The standard game is known as RuneScape 3, and a variant based on its 2007 state has been dubbed Old School RuneScape. RuneScape 3 has a WoW-like action bar combat system, cutscenes, and more modern by RuneScape standards graphics, which are due for another major overhaul soon. In contrast, Old School RuneScape has the old click and wait combat system and decidedly ugly but charming visuals. Old School RuneScape is often considered the slower, more rewarding version to play, and a separate development team creates plenty of exciting new content for players to delve into. Both are free to play with an optional membership to unlock more content, so pick whatever suits your fancy. They're both on Steam too if achievement hunting is your thing. Both RuneScape 3 and Old School RuneScape are available on mobile across both iOS and Android, although we wouldn't necessarily recommend playing more hardcore content in this format, such as raids, but for general, low-intensity skilling or weak monster grinding, it's a great way to pass the time. Lord of the Rings Online. It may not be as well known as World of Warcraft, but Lord of the Rings Online is a long-lasting MMO with a whopping 14 years of history behind it. The game brings Tolkien's lore-rich fantasy universe to life in the form of a mesmerizing, story-focused MMORPG. The game's original creators, Turbine, took great care to respect the Lord of the Rings source material during development. This means that through your travels, you'll find many accurately rendered towns, cities, and famous characters from the Lord of the Rings canon. You can visit Mordor in all its glory or simply walk the crowded streets of Bree. Lord of the Rings Online does have the usual raids, dungeons, and miscellaneous trade skills that you'd expect from an MMO, but those aren't the main selling points. It's the excellent story quests, quirky side activities such as playing and creating your own in-game music, immersive environments including the peaceful Shire, and thematic playable races and classes that make it stand out. Want to take on the role of a Bilbo-like hobbit burglar? Go for it. What about something a bit more exotic? Try the Bjorning class race combo and shapeshift into a hulking bear at will. Or pick up your loot and inspire your allies with the power of music through the Bard class. The choice is always yours. Ultimately, Lord of the Rings Online is an MMO for true fans of the universe, and is very well suited to solo players who value immersion. Since it's free to play, you have nothing to lose by giving it a shot. Albion Online. RuneScape might be one of the most well-known sandbox MMORPGs, but it doesn't quite push the limits of what this subgenre can offer as Albion Online does. Developed by Sandbox Interactive, yes really, the MMO saw its official launch back in 2017. It's a top-down, isometric title with click-based movement, but you aren't restricted to a grid. You can go anywhere you want within reason as there are still invisible walls. Think of the control scheme powering a MOBA like Heroes of the Storm, and you won't be too far off. Your progress through the game, as well as its combat system, is centered around a classless design philosophy. In this regard, Albion Online parallels RuneScape. You are what you wear. Here though, you don't have skills to level up. Instead, all of your progression is primarily tied to your equipment. Different weapons and armors will give you different active and passive abilities to use, which can be activated from your hotbar. But this system is more complex than it might seem at first. Your first two abilities and your passive are based on the weapon family you've chosen, such as swords, daggers, maces, or spears. Your third, however, is based on the specific weapon itself, of which there are many. In many cases, you'll be allowed to select from one of several different ability choices for each active slot, allowing you to vary your playstyle on the go, even if you favor one weapon type over another. If that's not enough progression for you, Albion Online also boasts a massive Destiny board, which is effectively how new content is gated. To craft or wield specific items, you may first need to grind your way to the appropriate skill on the board. Doing so will also give you other benefits, such as passive damage boons. So what about non-combat gameplay? Does Albion Online support that playstyle? In short, yes. You unlock your own private island rather early in the game. While milling about there, you can farm crops, raise and breed animals, and build structures and furniture from scratch. You can even manually place those items to decorate your abode exactly to your liking. A big focus on Albion is its player-driven economy. The resources that you gather and the equipment that you craft can all be sold at the game's various player-run marketplaces. If you want the best deals though, you might need to take your resources, slap them in a saddlebag, and manually cart them across the land. This is a risky process since you can be attacked by other players in PvP zones and have your items swiped, but a necessary one. Every marketplace and personal bank is local to the region you're in, so you won't be able to access all of your items from each location. Ultimately, Albion is a solid MMO that rewards patience and determination above all else. If you're not interested in grinding your way to the top, or if the game's simplified art style and admittedly janky animations put you off, feel free to check out one of the other games on the list. Otherwise, give it a whirl. It's free to play with an optional subscription after all. Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 has been on the market for a respectable 9 years. Its recipe for success lies in its tendency to buck traditional MMORPG trends in favor of newer, fresher ideas. Starting with combat, Guild Wars 2 scraps the slower, slightly more static target-based system of games like WoW and replaces it with a much more action-oriented alternative. You can dodge roll out of danger, use your weapon-specific abilities to zip around the battlefield, or simply crash into the ground with devastating area of effect attacks. Mounts are another area where Guild Wars 2 innovates. Unlike other MMOs, which mostly use mounts for basic ground or flying speed boosts, this game's rideable companions bring incredible amounts of utility to your gameplay. For example, the Raptor is fast on its feet and possesses an upgradable leap ability that can help you cross massive chasms. The Griffin, on the other hand, can glide and employs a mixture of diving and soaring techniques to cross long horizontal distances. The Skimmer lets you dive underwater and swim faster than usual, or skate along the surface. And the Springer can leap high into the air to help you scale cliffs or buildings. And then there's the Roller Beetle, which can tuck itself into a ball and help you careen across the land at breakneck speeds. If that's not enough for you, Guild Wars 2 also does away with normal MMO progression. Instead of grinding out repetitive kill or fetch quests for experience, you travel to different dynamic world events, which might task you with defending an objective, escorting a caravan, playing whack-a-mole with annoying farm vermin, or infiltrating an enemy camp in disguise. When you decide you want something a bit more linear, Guild Wars 2 main story is nothing to sneeze at. It is lengthy, varied, and at times surprisingly emotional. If any of this sounds like your cup of tea, feel free to give Guild Wars 2 a shot now. It's free to play with optional paid expansions, so there's minimal risk involved on your part. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Star Wars: The Old Republic wasn't the sequel fans of the Knights of the Old Republic franchise were hoping for, but it wound up being an excellent MMO in its own right after a couple of years of dedicated development. At its core, SWTOR doesn't break away from the standard MMORPG formula much. There are raids, dungeons, fetch and kill quests to partake in, and the combat system isn't too different from WoW's. However, it does have a few unique ideas that make it an exceptional experience, particularly when it comes to story. In SWTOR, most dialogue is fully voice acted, player characters included, and these sequences include Mass Effect style cinematic cameras and dialogue wheels. These dialogue options allow you to roleplay whatever sort of character you wish. You can be a complete jerk or a paragon of virtue. Both paths are supported equally, no matter what faction you join. Even a Sith warrior can be a nice guy in SWTOR. However, your decisions will affect where you land on the game's dark and light side morality scale. Make too many evil decisions, and you might lock yourself out of some sweet light side exclusive gear, and vice versa. But if you make good decisions at specific points, your less savory companions may lose respect for you. Speaking of companions, there's another neat feature in SWTOR. Each player can snag up to 5 class appropriate followers throughout their travels, one of which can directly follow them at any given time. Companions can interject in dialogue, help you in combat, and become romance options if they like you enough. They also have their own storylines for you to pursue, which helps make SWTOR feel like a proper successor to the KOTOR games, though it doesn't always hit the mark. SWTOR is a free-to-play game with an optional paid membership, which you'll probably want, so like several other titles on this list, it's worth trying out at least once. Thank you for watching this TechSpot video of the top 10 best MMOs. If you like more content like this, go ahead and click that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified when we drop more videos. Also, keep up to date with the latest technology news and analysis at www.techspot.com.